Emits light. You know the denotation for emission is? Of course, we know what alpha emission. Alpha emission is a emission of helium nuclei. Stopped with a sheet of paper. Emission. Something emits beta and gamma radiation. Really? Or are these just high energy perturbations? Do you think anything emits light? Do you understand how fundamental that is? By the way, I don't know if you know this or not, but this is not my opinion, this is a fact. 100% of quantum physics is built on the foundation of its assumed comprehension of the nature of light, what light is, how it works. I love it when they mention the words wave-particle duality, because then I just pucker. A wave is not a thing. A wave does not exist. Light is not a particle. To speak about a wave-particle duality is like two mental midgets arguing which one has more validity, a unicorn or a leprechaun. It's like, well, they're both invalid BS. Nothing emits light. Light is failed by the definition of emission. Let's give a direct quote from physics on emission. In physics, emission is the process by which a higher energy quantum, by the way, quantum just means blah blah, because I don't know, I've made 2 or 3 videos on this, but the actual denotation of the term quantum has no direct correlation to anything observed in science. It's just a BS term. It literally means blah blah. Reference some of my videos where I actually define the word quantum. The person who invented the word quantum goes back to das Lichtwort and this wave-particle duality nonsense. So quantum is a blah blah word. That's literally what it translates as, because it has no application in science. We say quantum this is a book made out of quantum paper. Quantum energy states, quantum. I love that word. I could make like 10 videos on the definition of quantum, just going over the history of that. Anyway, emission is a process by which higher energy quantum mechanical state. Mechanical? There's nothing mechanical in light. State of a particle, there's no light, there's no such thing as a particle in light, becomes converted. What becomes converted to what? To a lower one through the emission of a photon. Really? Resulted in the production of light. Since energy must be conserved, the energy difference between the two states equals the energy carried off. This would be the case of electrovolts, like the higher energy released, then the more dangerous the light. We start going towards the red end of the spectrum, then towards the blue, and we start getting into gamma radiation. Production of light. So in this phrase we have the words production of light. Light is purely a concept. What others call light is actually illumination, i.e. manifestation, which is the product of the dielectric permittivity of the phenomena blocking the perturbation. In my perfect analogy, which is my own and quite brilliant, I might add, if someone were completely invisible, kind of like the Invisible Man in the movies, he would be completely blind. A transparent or an invisible person has no manifest dielectric permeability by which light would manifest to be seen. So a transparent person would be 100% blind. They could look at the sun if someone told them the sun was over there, and of course they would see blackness. Light is purely conceptual. Light radiation, or what human beings call light radiation, is a self-replicating field or ether perturbation whose frequency is directly resultant to the magnitude of the disturbance, i.e. a high energy release. So here we have also too said higher energy quantum mechanical state. Well, that's a lot of BS terms that actually have no reference to anything regarding light. It says, since energy must be conserved, the energy difference between the two states equals the energy carried off by the photon. Energy conservation actually dictates that the dissipated energy is transferred to a field perturbation of linear electromagnetism, which is a coaxial circuit of longitudinal dielectric pulse perturbations and transverse electrical magnetic, which is, of course, electricity is a hybrid of magnetism and dielectricity. Phi times psi equals Q in Planck of electrification. Light is a coaxial circuit. I don't know if you've ever seen a coaxial circuit like what's feeding your TV. That RG58 cable or RG8 cable, it has a center conductor, then it has a dielectric around that, then it has a copper shielding to actually keep out spurious loss of signal. And this, of course, is measured in decibels of gain, of loss, like a leaky cable. Like if a squirrel chews on a cable, you got a leaky cable, for example. In the physical sciences, a particle, this is where we get into the particle nonsense of light, and the physical, and fields are not physical. So when we talk about physics having dominion over fields, that's kind of laughable since fields have no physicality whatsoever. A particle, or a corpuscle in older texts, is a small localized object. Is localized? There's no such thing as localized field of anything. All field are reciprocating, they're divergent, they're convergent. There's no such thing as a localized object. There's nothing located anywhere in any field, nor is there anything there to localize, to which can be ascribed several physical or chemical properties. Well, he certainly knows chemical properties, such as volume or mass. Well, there's no volume, and there's certainly no mass. And interestingly enough, and this is a question you should always ask an idiot scientist or a PhD, doctored, tenured physicist who is an absolute asshole and a mental midget. You say, excuse me, sir, how is it the case, and they don't know that the smaller the space, the higher the capacitance, they don't understand electricity. Physicists never understood electricity or field theory. Say, how is it, sir, that the smaller the space, the more powerful, like gamma radiation, if you actually take a footprint of electromagnetic radiation, like UV, infrared light coming from the sun or from an infrared bulb, the footprint of that electromagnetism, if you're able to shrink yourself down, would be enormous. Yet the really powerful stuff that will kill you in an instant, like coming off of plutonium nuclear reactors, gamma radiation, the footprint relative to infrared would go from like this to so small you'd have to whip out a microscope. So the smaller the space, the higher the capacitance. That's inverse to how human beings understand things. More power, something larger is more powerful. You're able to stick more stuff in something that is larger, like more dynamite in a larger jar as opposed to a much smaller jar. Well, just the inverse to those who understand dielectricity and magnetism, because the smaller the space, the higher the capacitance. So there is no volume there that's relational to energy. There's no volume nor mass, instant manifestation and dissolution. It has no physical properties. Nothing emits light. And this, of course, seems so superficial to the irrational mind, because this is the crap that the sun emits light, your light bulb emits light. When you turn it on, if you ignorantly think that something emits light, then you also ignorantly think a single person in the middle of a pond flapping their arms is emitting something as they create waves in the water. The water, of course, would be the fundamental inertia. I don't care. Mother Nature does not give a crap what stupid, ignorant, dumbass human beings call it. Inertia, in the true original denotation, not as we conceive inertia today. Ether, fundamental non-Cartesian energy, doesn't matter what you call it. Do you think a person waving their arms in the middle of a pond is emitting something? Or actually setting up a disturbance of the medium of which they are in? Obviously the person is not emitting anything. They're still there, they flap their arms really vigorously and create, nothing's changed. They're expending energy, they're burning calories, flapping their arms in the middle. Do you really think a light bulb, the tightly coiled tungsten filament sitting in the argon, the low pressure argon inside the glass bulb, is emitting anything? Now you see, modern physics in its stupidity, which it is atomism by definition, is arguing back and forth about what the definition of light is. Well, light is purely conceptual. The only thing that is ever manifest is illumination. Light does not exist. Light, by definition, is neither an emission, nor is it something autonomous from the energy which it created. Light is purely conceptual. Nobody, and this is not my opinion, and as in the case of the invisible man who would never see anything, be completely, everything's black. Open up your eyes, the invisible man, you'll never see anything. Nobody has ever seen light itself by true hardcore Pythagorean and Platonic definition. They've only seen illumination. And that illumination that's seen, like the rods and the cones in the back of your eye, or the reflected manifestation, is due to the dielectric permittivity of the phenomena resultant to the magnitude of the disturbance. It is purely the product of the dielectric permittivity of the phenomena blocking the perturbation. This is what we call the loss of energy. This is where light is manifest. Okay, but light doesn't exist. The light as manifest we were speaking of as illumination. Well, what's this? Is that a distinction without a difference? Splitting hairs? It's like a distinction without a difference. No, the distinction is really important. Because when it comes to the fact that all of modern physics is based upon their supposed comprehension of what the hell light is, wave-particle dualities? No. Photons? No. Emission? By pure definition, by their own definition, light fails to fall under the heading of emission. There is no such thing as a luminal emission. It is called energy transference. Well, we got the speed of light. That's not the speed of light. That is the rate of propagation. Max rate of propagation, c, or what we call the speed of light. It's not a speed, it's rate of induction. It's the maximum rate of induction given the magnetic permeability and the dielectric permittivity of the inertia of the ether itself as against itself. Speed itself as against itself. That's the rate of induction. That's not a speed. That means any transverse phenomena, and of course what we call light or electromagnetism, purely conceptual, has a frequency. It's measured in electrovolts. Those electrovolts in this transverse phenomena has a rate of induction, and that's what we call a speed, but it's not a speed at all. It's a rate of induction. So if light fails as an emission, there's no such thing as a photon particle. The photon particle has never been the input or output of any experiment ever done. Those people that have claimed to have captured a photon particle, the only thing they've captured is a dielectric pulse perturbation on one of countless different types. There's only 3 different sensors, I believe. The supposed photon was captured. There's no such thing as a photon. It's ridiculous. That's like to ignorantly think that light as a particle is as stupid as thinking that a slap on the head is like an anger particle. It's like, no, that's my hand whipping back and then snapping back and then like slapping you on the back. No, that's an anger particle or a force particle. You imagine, and this is what science is saying actually. And science is not real science. They're actually atomists. They're mathematicians. Mathematicians only believe in what can be quantified. Mathematicians, they're the hardcore sex fetish of a mathematician, i.e. modern physicists, is they deny and they want to quantify everything. They do not believe in something that cannot be quantified because then it is outside of the realm of their being able to do anything about it. That's what gets them out. Everything has to be quantified, but it's not. You can't quantify it. There's nothing there to quantify. You know, you think like a photographer goes out all day long, and at the end of the day, he needs to take his lens off and dump the photons out. There's no such thing as a photon particle. That's ridiculous. It's like saying a bunch of blows to the head from someone's clenched fist is an anger. It's a string of anger particles. This is how ignorant human science and physics is. You got to quantify everything. What's the photon? The photon, right? I told you the guy that actually came up with the concept of the photon. He was a psychoanalyst who believed in occultism. And he fell to his death while mountain climbing. That's the guy who invented the term photon. I forget his exact name. It'll be in the 4th edition of my book. His goofy name escapes me. Yeah, wave-particle duality. There's no such thing as a photon. A wave is not a thing. A wave is what something does, so it can't be a wave. There's no such thing as a wave. To think there's such thing as a wave is to think there's such thing as a shadow. Shadow's not a thing. Shadow's an absence of light. absence of illumination, really, because light is purely conceptual. There's no such thing as light, fundamentally, if you apply hardcore Pythagorean logic to the definition of what is light. And light, of course, fails by definition, even by their... This is how illogical they are. They're illogical with themselves. When they define emission, they fail to realize that light fails under the definition of emission because nothing emits light. And light is conceptual. What we call light is the loss of energy, the loss of... and of course, you know, that's quantifiable. But it's only quantifiable in things that we have quantified. Joules, volts, amps, coulombs. Once again, those are concepts. And these are only conceptualized and reified as a resultant of a vector over a period of time. So we actually have X number of joules, volts, or watts, so on and so forth, quantified with a vector over a period of time. But that doesn't define the thing itself. Human beings really today don't have discriminating minds that are intelligent enough to even comprehend, you know, how stupid our grasp of the nature of reality actually is. It's so simple. Yet these idiots who are atomists, atomism was denied by the intelligent Greeks thousands of years ago, but it of course has made a resurgence. Because fundamentally today, nobody is more materialistic and atomistic than a stupid human being of the 20th century. Because we all got to have our toys and our iPads and our money and, you know, all this crap. Of course, atomism is the religion supreme. That is what it is, by the way. It's a religion. It's actually a sick cult of atomism. The Greeks and the Indians and the Egyptians, they poo-pooed that crap thousands of years ago. Well, they weren't as evolved as we are today. Really? Your blender and your laptop computer and your iPod makes you more advanced? You see, modern human beings are so stupid that we think that the ancients couldn't have done things like the pyramids and all these other... It had to have been aliens, because human beings back then weren't that smart. I love it when human beings think we're so advanced, because I was like... I like to have them pick up a book of like Proclus, Plotinus, Numenius, Damascius, Syrianus. They can't even read a page of it. It would warp their brains. They can't even comprehend a page of it. They can't even read 5 pages. You take the smartest person you know or ever have met. It's like, read this shit. Tell me what it says. It's like, read a page from Plotinus, Proclus, Numenius, Damascius, Syrianus, on and on and on, these ancient Greek Platonists. Read this stuff. Tell me what it says. It's like, well, this is a book, you know. I don't want to read this. No. Just read 3 pages of it. Now, you read 3 pages of it. I only want to know what, like, 1 paragraph actually saying. No one will be able to do it for you. Human beings are that stupid today. We are advanced, but... advanced is not a compliment, by the way. Advanced, but intellectually inferior. We've de-evolved. It's an intellectual de-evolution. It's not saying that there weren't billions of course, there weren't billions of people back then either. Not to say there weren't millions and millions and millions of incredibly stupid, you know, pig farmers and stuff back in the day. I'm not saying people back then were smart. There's plenty of stupid people then as there are today. What I mean is that there's an ancient wisdom that's been lost, like retroduction and other things that give you to... Those are the primer, the keys, the secrets of comprehending how the universe works. But yeah, light fails under definition of emission. There's no such thing as a wave-particle duality. Light is purely a concept, too, created by human beings. No one's ever seen light. They only see illumination. They only see manifestation, but nothing is emitted by anything. We're talking about physical emission like alpha emissions. That is obviously the case, but you know, gamma radiation, I mean, that's just another high energy frequency on the electromagnetic spectrum. The electromagnetic spectrum is not an emission of anything. It is a countless, a multitudinous number of frequencies of ether perturbations. That's all it is. It's that simple. Mother Nature is not complicated. It's just that human beings are that stupid. Anyway, have a nice day. I'm going to head to Florida for 6 days. I'll catch you later. If you like these videos, click the link below. Let me know how you feel. All that jazz. And I got to get back to working on my book. Bye.